I'm gonna stick with a quick fire format, okay, Frank?
Okay.
Fuck. Good morning, everybody. This is Dan Bailey, my fine feathered mad Mexican friend Frank Garcia, and this is Smothered and Covered Sports. Frank, how you doing this morning?
I'm good, but I didn't know I was a feathered friend.
Yeah, I mean you're like a peacock.
Yeah, a peacock of all. Wearing a Panthers hat, and I'm like a peacock.
Well, hey,
I think that that's. I've never been called a peacock before, of all birds, and definitely have never been called that as an animal.
what would you prefer? What bird do you think you symbolize, sir?
Oh, an eagle of all birds, but
Oh,
you're not going to call me an eagle. I know
no.
that. I know you. But no bird at all would probably be preferable. And if it was going to be a bird, it'd probably be a prehistoric one, like a pterodactyl.
There you go. Well, that's probably more fitting because you are about as old as a dinosaur anyway.
That's right.
Well, look, man, let's before we get jumped in, I'm just going to say a quick thank you to our sponsors, Stroll Magazine, Tap and Vine, and the Carolina Steel. Frank, you are how many days away from launching the third Tap and Vine?
Gosh, you're going to make me do math, but we're doing our soft opening on December 27th, right after Christmas. And we'd love everybody to come out and enjoy some of our great food, some of our great service. And we're looking forward to opening up the very next day. Not with our grand opening, but we're just going to continue our soft opening and have some fun and some great food and some great service. And hopefully everybody come out there and enjoy some great ambiance and atmosphere.
Yeah, I'm so excited for you. I mean, it's a great restaurant, and I think you at the helm is going to be a game changer. Location's great. I mean, I'm just super excited.
That's our third location, Dan, and I think that we're really trying to, expand into all of Charlotte so that they can enjoy it, and don't have to travel too far, and give them an opportunity to taste what we're talking about. And it's a unique dining experience. It has we have great wines on tap. We have a great, menu as well. One of my favorite things is the tacos that they have there. And when I say tacos, they're not traditional tacos. They're shrimp tacos with a little flair. They're fish tacos with a little flair, and some steak tacos as well. But if you really like burgers as well, we have a venison burger, and we also have a bison burger. So of everything, but the wine and the drinks are special, and so are our servers and our bartenders and our managers. So we're really excited about our new location. In fact, at 6:00 on the 27th, I've already mentioned it. We're going to be having a soft opening. We'd love everybody to come out and see right there in Quail Corners off of Park Road in Glen Eagles. So
6:00 until when?
6 until 10. We're going to do 6 until 10 that first night, just to kind of get our feet underneath. And we really want to give a great experience for our viewers, our viewers, our listeners, and our people that are coming in there, our patrons that are going to be enjoying that as well. So we want to put ourselves under a little stress so that when we're ready to open that next day, we're ready to fire on all cylinders.
That's awesome, man. It's just so awesome. So one last question before we get into our meat and potatoes here. One last thing on the appetizer menu. See what I did there? A little restaurant joke. I am not a huge social media fan, but your stuff always comes up. I've talked about how I think you do a great job on social media, and if I'm not mistaken, I see you in a radio booth yesterday. Were you back in teasing the world with your glorious radio personality?
Yeah, I was trying to help somebody boost their ratings, by gratiating with them with my presence, and that's it was a fun thing to do. As you know, I was on radio for about 18 years here in Charlotte, and I do miss time to time going back on there and cutting it up. But Fox Sports Charlotte, it was nice enough to have me on, and was on there talking about the Panthers and a lot of the problems they're having, and a lot of the issues, even with the NFL and what's going on with the offsides and some of the power teams, and what's taking place in college football with the NIL deals. I don't know if you saw this or not, but Marvin Harrison Jr. Got offered $25 million
play college football.
To play college football for his senior year, and I'm not sure if those numbers are going to be accurate, if they're just rumors, but there's multiple media sources reporting them. So, as you know, we have to dive into the information a little bit more before we really understand if that's factual or not, because of all the rumors and the sources and things that float around. People like to just be the ones that break the news first. So, but that's incredible if that's the case.
Man, it is. It is. Well, it's funny. We're going to talk a lot about the subjects you did last night, and I think that for everybody listening, our big focus area is the Carolina Panthers, and we're going to start with them, man, and let's just think. There's nothing good we can really say right now. That loss to St. Louis was just. Well, I'll take that back. There's one thing we can say is that they're pivoting, I guess. I mean, but other than that, I mean, you watched the game Sunday, I'm assuming. And what can you say about this, Frank? What are we doing? How do we have a team that only scored 6 points against the Saints?
Well, that's the $1 million question. Is you fire your head coach, you put him on blast. I believe the offensive coordinator is probably going to be next to go, and I think the staff is hanging on by strings right now. Just trying to piece the rest of the season together in hopes that they still have a job somewhere. And I think that's the big thing for players that they have to realize, coaches they have to understand, and our fans is that this is these players' livelihood, and these coaches' livelihood. And I know that Tepper didn't do a very good job, in my opinion, of giving a press conference and giving the fans and the people that are spending their hard-earned money to go watch these games and support this team. He didn't give them much of an answer, and I thought it was a little bit of a cop-out and a lot of entitlement. But these coaches are really battling and fighting to go out there and win games, and so are the players. But unfortunately, Dan, if you and I went out there on an NFL field right now, we're not going to have much success.
Right.
They don't have enough talent, and that's been the biggest problem. So it doesn't matter who you bring in as coach. We could sit here and talk about the next best offensive coordinator or the greatest defensive coordinator, and let's go hire this guy and let's go bring this guy in. Until the person shopping for the groceries is different, or the people at top are allowing a little bit more of the people beneath them to do their job, you're always going to have this issue. And unfortunately, I think from what I've understood with this organization is that's where the problems are coming with from the top. Is that you have an owner that's overstepping into his bounds and telling these coaches how to do their job. And the owner's wife is involved as well. So you have two people that are kind of undermining these coaches and what they're doing in front of the players. I saw the owner out there, and I saw the wife out there, at practice and walking around and evaluating, and what are they evaluating? I think that sometimes when you hire somebody to do a job, you have to allow them to do the job. And when you're overstepping that and crossing those lines, it comes across as, controlling and micromanaging. And, you're putting your thumb on top of everybody. You're not going to be able to do your best job. So if that's the case, then there's not a whole lot of answers for this team and the future of this team. And I think the biggest problem that we found yesterday, talking to some of the listeners and the fans, Dan, was that, that there's no hope. And there's no hope. The light at the end of the tunnel is so far that it's just a speck in the galaxy so far away that you can't even see it. And I think that's the biggest problem right now is, with this organization, there's no upside. There's no, snowball effect that's happening. There's no momentum being built. The decisions that are being made by this organization has set this franchise back 4 or 5 years, and it's going to be tough to cover. So, and until you're ready to blow it up, until you're ready to go through some dark times, I don't see a whole lot of optimism, in the near future for this organization.
I mean, really, we're looking at a scorched earth. It would be what brings the most hope, right? Like just wipe it all out and start all over. Almost like a new franchise because the fans are right. You're right. It's, And the worst part for me is that the general manager is still there. With all this going on, and everybody with half a football brain can see that we don't have the talent, the general manager that's put this team together is still there. They fire the coach. They're allowing this toxic, point the finger, talk junk behind it, the head coach's back atmosphere, so that they can protect their own jobs. And yet, the general manager, the architect, is still there. So
Well, and and I think that's the problem, Dan, is we don't really know who the architect is.
fair.
From what I've heard, and what people have said around the organization is that the coach, the general manager, and the assistant coaches wanted to go in one direction, but the ownership, the group wanted to, go in another direction. And it's not Bryce Young's fault, but when you have a small guy that doesn't have a great arm, that may be accurate and doing some of the things that he's going to do. And I'm not saying he's a bad player, but he's not an impact player. He's not going to have the impact that a CJ Stroud or Will Levis is, or the kid from Florida. He's just Richardson. He's not going to have the impact that those players have right away. So this house was built backwards. We don't have the structure to bring in Bryce Young and say, okay, go out there and succeed and make guys around you better, because he's not that type of player. I don't think he's going to make mistakes. I don't think he's part of this problem, but he's not a big enough part of the solution to have impact on this organization.
Right. Right. Well, look, man, that we could talk all day about the sadness of the Panthers, and I don't want to get depressed. So I think the best thing to do is to go from the worst to first. And let's, after there's been some big shifts in the power struggle of the NFL. I for one made a big deal out of when San Francisco traded for Chase Young, and you said, hey, let's wait and see. I think that's really turned into a great move for the San Francisco 49ers. They're definitely in the top 3 of the NFL. But Frank, in your opinion, which team? Will you give us your top 3? Who should we be looking for to win the Super Bowl, or at least to make it? The playoff picture is pretty well defined right now, I think. But the overall landscape of who's going to really be the best team, who's showing every week that they are continuing to improve and staying healthy and winning football games in a convincing fashion.
Well, this is in my opinion, Dan, the NFL has become a marathon and not a sprint. And I know that we as fans a lot of times react based on the last 2 games that you played. For example, the Eagles lost the last 2 games they played, and all of a sudden they're not a contender. They're out of the hunt, and they're not very good, and they're struggling, and they're terrible, right? And they're not playing well right now. They're not playing well enough to win, but this is the NFL, and they've got to create that spark. I still think that they're one of the top 3 teams in the NFL. Because of the experience they have, the offensive line they have, the quarterback they have, the coach they have, and the defense they have. So I wouldn't count them out, quite so soon. But I do think, and I've always felt like the San Francisco 49ers are superior in talent to everybody in the league. And everybody's going to say, Chase Young is the reason for that. He's a big part of that. But the biggest part of that is when you have Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, and Trent Williams on the field at the same time. This team is undefeated in the last 2 years. They haven't lost it. Those 3 players right there are dynamic. They make differences, to teams, and they are impossible to guard. It's like when Tyreek Hill, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and throwing a great running back into that system, that is with Chris McCaffrey caliber, that team offensively is unstoppable. And because they're so good offensively, it takes so much pressure off the defense because they're in predictable situations. When you get up 2 touchdowns in the NFL, it's a game changer. And it makes the other team one-sided. They have to throw the ball to get back into the game. And that's where a guy like Chase Young can pin his ears back. And you can look at, Joey Bosa and have him pin his ears back. And they have linebackers that can cover like safeties, and they have speed, toughness. And on top of that, I think they have the best coach in the NFL right now. He's the most creative mind offensively that we've seen since, in my opinion, Bill Belichick. And I know Belichick is a defensive coordinator or a defensive-minded guy, but he calls offense based on impact on what it would have on the defense. But the San Francisco 49ers have always been the far and above team, because of the players they have. And I think they put themselves in position to go out there and see what they're going to be able to do in the playoffs, because that's what it comes down to. When you start playoff football, everything happens a little faster. The windows get a little smaller. The effort increases, the intensity increases, and that's where I think that the San Francisco 49ers play the best. But I would call them number one. I would still call the Philadelphia Eagles number two, and then I think the third best team in the NFL right now is the Dallas Cowboys.
Thank you. Yep.
Yeah, and I think you have to say that, because offensively they have all sorts of weapons. Defensively they've gotten much better. They're very opportunistic in taking the ball away. I think they go into struggles at time, and they get into lulls when things aren't going their way. I think they're a very front-running team, but when they get the lead, they put the gas to it's all gas, no brakes for them offensively. The question I would have with them when it comes to playoffs is that can Dak Prescott handle the pressure when things go poorly, right? And that's where the leadership comes in. And what I question with the Dallas Cowboys is their leadership.
So would you rather have Jalen Hurts or Dak Prescott?
Jalen Hurts is a Super Bowl champion. It's an easy answer.
Well, Super Bowl, he made the Super Bowl, didn't win it.
Jalen Hurts has played in the national championship. It's an easy answer. Jalen Hurts has had success everywhere he's been.
Yep.
An easy answer. Jalen Hurts all day, every day.
Even now, the way Jalen Hurts been playing hurt
all day, every day.
Yep.
All day.
Where did he go to school again?
What's that?
Where did he go to school again?
Doesn't matter.
Where did he go to school again?
It doesn't matter.
Built by Bama. Just had to throw it in.
He got benched by Bama too. So let's remember that. But what I love about Jalen Hurts is the fact that he's failed and he's succeeded. He's hit bottom, and he's still coming out on top, and that's resiliency, and that's what creates leadership. That's what people want to follow. They want to see the guy that hit rock bottom and is going to fight through it and be built for long term. He's not going to cower to pressure. He's going to make love to it, and I think that's where Jalen Hurts really succeeds.
Yeah, Jalen Hurts, and you're right. He's like the Rocky Balboa of football. He's been knocked down numerous times. People talk bad about him. He can't throw. He can't read through progressions. He can't do this, can't do that. And the dude just wins. And he's always been identified as one thing for sure. He's a great leader. I love Jalen Hurts. And I couldn't agree more with your top three, Frank. From top to bottom in that order. I definitely think San Francisco's number one. I think that for everything that you just said, they are head over heels above everybody else. And when they're healthy. When they're healthy, they're unstoppable. I think Philadelphia is a very strong, just under them number two. And I think that, you're right. A lot of people are in the, like, what have you done for me lately? And we get all obsessed with the lists and blah, blah, blah. And that's the new wave of football. And football is a sprint, but to reach one goal. And Jalen Hurts has been hurt the last 4 weeks. And a lot that's not talked about, right? We're ready to say, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia's dropped, blah, 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 blah. But Jalen Hurts has been playing hurt. There's some people questioning, maybe we should sit him. No, he's a leader. That's who Jalen Hurts is. He's going to fight through his injuries. He's going to continue to lead the team, and they're going to continue to fight. And they also had a tough 4 games. I mean, they won 2 out of 2 in a very tough stretch for anybody. So, you are spot on. And Dallas is in its resurgence at number 3, but we'll see what they do when it comes playoff time. But it's been a great football season so far, we have to admit. And, we're going to spend more time talking about that. And I think that it's going to be good for us to talk MVP talk in our next show. Maybe not today, but next show for sure. We have a limited amount of time, and, it's a lot of fun. But I got to ask this question. And it's a transition here, I know, but it's a rapid one because I'm talking fast. But did you watch the Army Navy game?
I did. I watched quite a bit of it, and I love the tradition and the history and the "fuck Joe Biden" chant before the game. I think that that's to me shows you the heartbeat of this nation, and the fact that there's still hope watching that game for our young cadets that are out there putting their lives on the line every single day, and are going to continue to do that. For this country, I think it's honorable. I think it's incredible, and I love that game for that reason. And I really love the fact that the heartbeat of this nation is still strong. I think a lot of times we get caught up with social media and all the bullshit that goes along with that.
Yep.
And the agendas on both sides, pulling each other apart. Versus what really is happening with the silent majority, and that's a really good opportunity for the nation to see the silent majority come to life. And
Agreed.
it was a great football game on top of that, where questionable decision at the end of the game, but sometimes those questionable decisions are the surprise decisions that turn out to be great when
Yep.
they and turn out to be what the heck when they fail. So that's kind of what the end of the game was. But I believe that Army won for the second year in a row. It hadn't
That's
happened
right.
at the time. Navy has had the best of them, but I'm fortunate to coach high school football where that's the caliber of kids that we have at our school that go to that university, Navy and Army, to compete, and they play football, for those coaches and for our country, and they serve in our country, and it's cool to see the love that they have for that game as well. And I know, Dan, that game is near and dear to your heart as you serve this country as well.
Yeah, and look, man, you couldn't have said it better on a number of fronts. And I enjoy disagreeing with you, but this is one where I cannot. I mean, the Army Navy game is by far, in my opinion, the biggest game year in and year out, and it's not because it's the most talented game, because those guys fight harder. They play with more pride than any other team when they play each other. And anybody can argue with me all you want, but that game has a bigger effect on people than any game I've ever seen. I was at Biloxi, Mississippi, training with the Seabees in 1999, and I'll never forget it ever, because we're on a naval base, right? And this is in '99. Army was terrible. We got Bobby Ross was our coach, and he was dreadful. And we, these Navy guys put out this big thing on the volleyball court, stretched in sand, beat Army, blah 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 blah, and they beat us. But then we played an actual game with our guys versus their guys right beside that same sandmark, and we beat them like a Cherokee drum. So the Army pride in me and everybody that's ever served is very, very strong. And then any family member, right? Like there's a lot of people that are very attached to this game. And it doesn't matter how pretty it is. All that matters is wins and losses. Statistics don't matter in this game. All that matters is wins and losses and what it represents for all of those kids and all those soldiers and all those cadets and all those sailors. And the fact that the stars and bars, the United States flag is still the thing that really matters and really drives this game, because knowing that everybody that's in it, every single person that plays in that game, Frank, is going on to serve our country. There's no big NFL dreams in that game at all. All those guys are going to go serve a 6-year commitment directly following their time in college. And they know they're going to be putting their life on the line, and they're playing football that way. And it's just, so for those reasons, it's just the most amazing game. Now, the funny thing in the statistic world, and I don't know if you knew this or not, but did you know that for 6 years straight, the under has been the play on that game? And you know what the over under was on this game?
20, no, was it 21, 19, something like that?
It was 28 and a half.
28
What
and
was
a
the
half.
final score, Frank? What was the total score?
28.
The under won again.
Well, it depends on where you got it. I heard a lot of people saying the 27, but the way the game played out is that you thought you had that game covered.
Absolutely.
Last couple of minutes of the game, very similar to last night watching the Monday Night Football game between Tennessee and the Dolphins, where they went, I think they scored 21 points in 5 minutes or something like that after scoring maybe 21 the entire game. So, that's what's so crazy about football, those bad beats. That's the Scott Van Pelt bad beat of the year, for Army Navy. But, it's really is an incredible ambiance. And it's one of the bucket list things that I've always wanted to do, just to see and feel what it's like to be at one of those games. But watching it on TV, I'm sure doesn't do it justice. But to see the pride that these players have, really is they're playing for the love of the game. As you mentioned earlier, there's the hopes and dreams are not to go off to the NFL. The hopes and dreams are to go serve and become a lieutenant or a colonel or a general, and help this country become what it's always been, and that's the best country in the world to live in.
Absolutely, no question. And hopefully our sponsors or somebody out there listening will sponsor Frank and I's bucket list next year and send Smothered and Covered to the game, because I can tell you they get the best coverage and the most electric feeling they ever got in their life if you put me and Frank at that game. And we'd definitely be cheering for Army. If Frank turns for Navy, we might have to end this partnership period. That's one thing where I draw the line.
United States of America in that game.
There you go. That's my man. Well, look, the biggest news, man, biggest news in sports right now, the game-changing Shohei Ohtani, Shohei me the money, Frank, $700 million over 10 years to play baseball.
Yeah. I mean,
so on an annual spending basis, let me tell you this. Did you know that contract, what they're paying him for 1 year, deferred or not, and we'll get into deferral in a minute, is more than 8 teams for their entire payroll. Their entire payroll. So there's 8 teams out there that pay their entire team less than what the Dodgers are committed to paying Shohei Ohtani.
It's a big market team in baseball. And same thing applies in basketball. When you don't have revenue sharing with the rest of the league, teams are able to go out and afford these type of contracts and pay the luxury tax or the overspending that they're going to do on this contract. And whether he's worth it or not, he got it, so he's worth it. So
yeah,
we sit here and debate what the ugly lady with the oil paint and the mustache is worth, and why is it worth that? Because somebody's willing to pay it. And
that's exactly right.
Same thing applies with Ohtani's contract. Is that's the great thing about free market. And the bad thing sometimes is that the little guy gets left behind. But it gives the little guy incentive to work harder. And I think that, the fact that this contract is out there, I think it's a good thing for baseball, but I also think it could be a bad thing for baseball, because it's going to turn a lot of people away. When you look and see, how they're struggling in their real lives, and try to compare it to what the hell's going on in LA with this $700 million contract. And, when they're having to pay $60, $70 to go to a Dodgers game, I think unfortunately what's happening with professional sports is these owners are making so much money through TV revenue and deals like that they don't really care if people come to the games or not. They just care if they watch them on TV.
That's right.
They're pricing the everyday fan out of the experience of going and watching a game, and standing up in the 7th inning and smelling the popcorn and hearing the bat crack and listening to the crowd roar. And they're deterring them into their own homes, where you can get a lot more value for your buck and bang for your buck than you do if you go to a game.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm a lifelong baseball fan. I was never any good at it. But I can tell you that the going to a game is what was special. It's what made me fall in love with the game. I still go to Charlotte Knights games because those are the only reasonable games out there. And if the Braves start getting up there in costs, I won't be able to go to any Braves games, because I'm not going to spend $100 to go sit in the upper level at a baseball game. I'm not going to do it on principle. You couldn't have said it better. Again, like I don't like agreeing with you because I don't like you. But it's a big gouge, especially considering the Mike Trout's last contract was $430 million. So we just saw a $270 million jump in what it costs to pay the big name. That's scary in itself. And if that's the way sports are going, that's just something. But Shohei did do something that was very interesting to me, and I wanted to ask you about this, and maybe it's a mark for the future. Shohei Ohtani has deferred all but $2 million a year in his contract every year. So he's deferring $68 million all the way out to 2034 through 2044, so that the Dodgers can continue to spend money on their stars they have already, like Mookie Betts. Now, so in saying that, this reminds me a little bit of the Bobby Bonilla, right? Who's still, by the way, being paid by the Mets. So are the Dodgers almost chewing off their nose to spite their face, and they're going to accept this big payday? They're going to accept this deferral. But what's to guarantee? What's that going to do to the Dodgers when the pay really hits in 2034? Are they going to be able to pay it, or are we going to see this as a platform moving forward across all other sports to say, oh well, the Hornets are trying to get in the game, so we're going to do a deferred comp program with Stephen Curry, whatever, whoever, or are we going to see that in the NFL? Is the deferral now going to be something that's a bigger market changing action, more so than the money?
Well, people do it in the NFL, as we speak. People do it in college football. I mean, the NBA. They also do it in Major League Baseball. I don't know how the contract is written, so and I'm not a lawyer, an attorney a contract attorney to be able to tell you exactly what the contract looks like. That being said, is that when you look at this contract, what's everybody in the country talking about right now?
The big dollars.
The big dollars. So regardless of what happens down the road, with this contract, they become front page news with it. So they become more relevant than they already were with being in LA. So, a lot of times these monies it's just smoke and mirrors. Other times, eventually you have to pay the piper. Right? You can borrow all the credit you want, but eventually you got to pay it back, and the interest rates keep getting higher and higher. So, that's up to the Ohtani group and the Dodgers, how they worded that contract, how they structured that contract. But ultimately, they're going to have to pay the piper. What it means for the Dodgers now, is as they say, they got a great player that's making $2 million. So they can still kind of hide the cap number, towards the end. But eventually, I don't know who's going to have to write that check, but it's not going to be a fun one to write.
No. But let me ask you this. In your opinion, if they win 2 to 3 World Series over the next 10 years, was it worth it?
I think if they win one, it's worth it. I mean, regardless of whether it's worth it or not, it's relevant. I mean, it doesn't affect me one way or the other.
Yeah.
So, that's the decision that they made. And again, there's more to this, that's happening than just the $700 million. It's, putting them back on, the map where they're going to be watched. Everybody in the world is going to want to watch a $700 million a year player, $700 million a year contract guy. They're going to want to see what the excitement's about. If they don't watch baseball, they don't know who Tani is. They're going to want to watch. So you've brought in the fringe fan to say, okay, I got to watch this game because the Dodgers are playing. They just paid this guy $700, and then they're going to expect him to go out there and hit 3 home runs and
That's true.
bat 8, not make any mistakes. But that's just not the case. He's better than almost everybody that he's playing against. He's a big name, and it's just the expectations are going to be high.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, that's another great interaction. Hopefully we get to hook up again in the next couple of days. You got a lot of work to do to get ready for the soft opening on December 27th, my man.
I'm sitting here wasting my time talking with you. I got to go get to work.
Buddy, this is the best thing you do. All right. Well, hey, thank you, everybody, all the viewers. Thank you, Frank Garcia. Always a great time, man. And
make sure you come check us out, Tap and Vine. We're having our soft opening December 27th, 6